Well, since I have been talking about, I don't even need, since I've been talking about college lately, I think it's high time that I go over a story that probably captures my college experience better than anything I've ever seen. It's obvious the person who wrote this has been there. So this is Warm Colors by Holy. And I might make some commentary in the middle of this thing. You can see my name. All of Sunset's hard work in college is finally nearing its end. As she's sitting in her dorm room on yet another lonely Friday night, she has to wonder what she might have lost along the way. Well, I'm not like her in that regard because I never had it in the first place. Sunset closed her eyes, the warm sunlight peeking through her window, painting her skin in soft, comforting warmth. She occupied herself with balancing an unlaced shoe on the edge of her toes, letting it hang precariously from the edge of her windowsill, one errant movement potentially sending it clattering to the carpet a few inches below. It was all she could really bring herself to focus on. The constant tick of her old analog clock hanging above her head was like the clanging of bricks stacking up around her in a quiet little dorm room. That and the constant dull hum of something mechanical on the other side of the wall drowned out the chatter of the students walking past outside. Sunset let her head lean over and rest on the window. The warmth of the glass radiated through her hair as she tried to focus on the words coming through it. Something about someone's sister, something about being mad at her roommate, something about a test a girl was glad was over. Sunset couldn't really piece any of it together. People talking about friends, people talking about school, just people talking, really. That's all she wanted to hear. Oh, ain't that the truth when you're so alone? Sunset opened her eyes and let out a breath. It was only 6 in the afternoon. She didn't have to check. She knew every time she walked into this little room and set her backpack down into the corner, this is what time it'd be. Every night like clockwork. Her homework had already been done in the library after class, and she'd grabbed an apple and sandwich from the cafeteria for her last meal of the day, just like she'd done every day for as long as she can remember. Everything was taken care of. She knew she would probably still study for her finals coming up anyways, but if she didn't, she would probably be all right. She really had all the time in the world to spend on whatever she wanted now, yet she sat silent in the windowsill, feeling the last warmth of the setting sun peering through the window onto her forearms. Her eyes flicked over to the phone she sat on her desk when she walked in. Still dark. She knew it would be a fruitless effort getting up to check it. No one needed to talk to her. No professor needed to send her a scolding email. No classmate needed to ask her anything, and no friend wanted to hang out with her on this Friday night, just like every other one. Don't forget your friends in college, people. Mine friends did that to me. The sidewalk outside grabbed her attention instead. Her mind lost its focus on her shoe hanging over the edge and turned away to the window again. It was only 2 stories down, so she could see every little detail of the grass growing around the concrete and the roots threatening to interrupt those steady gray lines. Trees painted shadows on the sidewalk sparingly as the summer leaves had mostly fallen already. Sunset watched as one of those leaves sat crooked on a branch, each little gust of wind ready to send it on its way. It was only a matter of time before it floated down to the grass where the groundskeepers would sweep it away, the bright green sheen it once had being forgotten to time, replaced in a couple months by a new set of leaves. Another deep breath passed through Sunset's nose, then she let it out with another long sigh. Her eyes flicked towards her phone again. She thought about calling one of her friends, asking where their lives were taking them, the things they might do when they meet up again, but instead she looked back towards the windows. The conversations always seem to end up the same way. Quick how are yous and worn pleasantries, talks about how they'll meet up soon and the wonderful things they'll do again. She always smiled at the thought of taking a sip of a sugar cube corner milkshake, or talking for hours in the dark with each other during a sleepover. That smile quickly left when she remembered how long it had been since she'd actually got to do any of those things. Those conversations with her friends became a staple of her weekend routine. She'd try to call 2 or 3 of them until one finally picked up or wasn't busy, and she'd waste a few hours of their busy lives before going back to the sounds of her little dorm room. Just another weekend of looking between a textbook and that little screen, wishing things could have been different. Oh my god, this is so relatable. Like, I'm glad I waited until years later to react to this because, like, this is so relatable. Maybe she should have gone to that art college with Rarity, or maybe she should have applied to Rainbow's Choice, the one that decided to give her that track scholarship. Maybe she should have just stayed home and helped Applejack at the farm. Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe thinking her hindsight was a useless effort. She'd made her choice to come to this college alone. She was never going to get that time back now. Sunset's eyes trailed off the branches as she was Yeah! Sunset's eyes trailed off the branches she was tracing with her gaze and looked back to the magical journal sitting on her desk next to her pile of textbooks. She played with the idea of writing her favorite equestrian princess, but her motivation soon faded away. Twilight had other things to worry about: nations to save, ponies to help, friendship conundrums to solve, an entire world of responsibilities that meant it usually took a few days for a response to finally pop up. Sunset didn't really feel like sitting in front of a blank page now, anyways. Yet another sigh left through Sunset's nose, this time edging towards frustration. Sunset closed her eyes and let her head fall back against the wall. For a split second, the shoe halfway on her foot lost its balance and slipped to the ground, leaving Sunset's foot bare to the warmth of the sun as it slowly seeped through her sock. She didn't bother doing anything about the other shoe still laced up. She let her legs stretch out as far as they could against the windowsill as her eyes drifted back to the leaf she was so interested in earlier. Sunset's eyes squinted as she scanned the tree. She knew where it was, but the familiar orange shoe was nowhere to be found on that barren branch anymore. The sun encroached even more onto the sidewalk, the shadow losing even more of the shape it once painted there. The leaf that used to be so essential to that tree was gone forever, left to a fate of being raked up or blown away until it crumbled into nothing. Sunset looked down towards the sidewalk behind it, but she had lost it among the others. It was meaningless to try to search for it in a sea of autumn colors. She caught a glimpse of the wind pulling away some of the leaves and dragging them down the sidewalk and out of her view, probably to somewhere far, far away from the branch that grew it. None of the students seemed to mind as they whisked around their feet. Why should they? They were just leaves. Kind of like how people spread out and just forget you exist. I feel the metaphor with that one. Just 3 more semesters, Sunset thought to herself. Another long sigh left her lips as she pulled the other shoe off her foot with her toes. The shoe clattered to the ground next to its partner, sitting ready for Sunset to start the week all over and again in a few days. With nothing else to do, Sunset let herself roll off the sill and right into bed. No one was going to call or text her. No friend was going to knock at her door. Even distracting herself with a textbook was just an exercise in redundancy at this point. The familiar soft sheets gladly welcomed her by immediately fighting away the cold air in a room that nipped at her once she left the absence of the warm sun. Sunset wrapped herself in blankets, drowning out the rest of the world in a few layers of wool and cotton. Just another lonely Friday night. Sunset could barely make out the sounds of the outside world anymore. The distant murmurs of the students outside slowly disappeared with the setting sun. Sunset let her eyes close, despite knowing how early she might end up waking up tomorrow. She covered herself even more in her sheets to try to drown out the world. Even still, she could still hear that mechanical hum that kept the building going, and the little tick as the seconds passed her by. It may have not been a gentle lullaby, but it was the only sound that had been rocking her to sleep for what felt like an eternity to her. I know I started a bit during that reading, but I think honestly that really is my college experience. Nothing. Just absolutely nothing. No one to talk to, no one to do anything with, just nothing. No social life at all. And you start counting down the days until it's done, until maybe you go to someplace else that might be better or might not. There's no guarantee. And the way that the leaf was discarded and blown away and just forgotten about, blending into everything else, even though it used to be important. It's kind of how I felt with a lot of my friends. You know, I used to feel like I was important to them, and then they just, I don't know, they just stopped trying, stopped making any effort whatsoever. I think if there's anything to take away from this, it's do not forget your friends. Friends are important. Treat them like they matter. Don't treat them like an afterthought. Believe me when I say it's very depressing. So, yeah, that's my reading of that. All I can say is I really wish I had a chance to do college over, and I hope that if I do go back, things will be a bit different than they were before. Maybe that's not the right reason to go, I am getting a degree that I want this time instead of one that I thought I wanted. I remember when I chose meteorology, I thought, oh, I'll earn the respect of my peers and I'll be the smart guy and everyone will finally accept me. No. Meteorology people in general are kind of like, I don't know if they just are on the spectrum, but like what they're very bad at socializing, and a lot of them were very stuck up and rude. Even going back to the community college, it just feels like I'm not important, like I'm an outsider, and it's really frustrating. I mean, I say, hey, at least they don't hate me, I guess. That's a step in the right direction, but I don't know. I don't know. I kind of need to do this, though. I think I need to do this. I've been having so many dreams of wishing I could do it again. You can't live in regret. I got a degree I didn't want. I went to a place I shouldn't have gone. Wasted a bunch of time. Worked my ass off. And for what? A degree that hasn't helped me get a career yet. This time I'd be a B student. I'd focus more on socializing, and I'd make sure that this didn't happen again. Anyways, I think that that's probably enough of that. All I can say is don't be like my friends were, and don't be like Sunset's friends were. Remember your friends when they leave. Treat them like they matter. Don't forget them. It's not that difficult to send a 5-second text. And the moment you try to defend it and act like it is, the moment you become an asshole.